Well, good evening, everybody. This is a live show, but what we're going to do is we're going to edit it down afterwards. So occasionally you'll think, what the hell is he doing? I'm doing that for the edit, okay? Well, welcome to this video, everybody. And tonight's video, if you work for Kenwood, Icom, Yaesu, or any other manufacturer, you might be interested in watching this because we're going to come up with some things that we, as users, want. Tonight I've brought in Jonathan to help us out. Jonathan, he'll say hello in a minute, but he used to work for Martin Lynch & Son in the UK. He did 5 years in a ham radio shop, and he knows a lot of stuff that customers want and don't want and all that sort of stuff. I'm currently playing with a carabiner here, which is a rather interesting thing, and I just realised it's probably making noise, so I'm going to put it down so I don't have to play with it. So welcome. We've got an online focus group here with, I don't know how many people are watching, probably 50 or 60 people, and they're going to contribute on the comments. So when I edit this in the future, we'll use those comments. And also I've got on my left-hand side here, which I can add to the stream, I'm going to make some notes for you so we can decide what is important and what is not important. And I think what we should do is, and I have to go and shut that door in a minute because I can hear my headphones, the TV in the snug. I think we should do an HF base station. We should do a mobile as well, Jonathan. What's important, what isn't. Okay. Introduce yourself, Jonathan, while I shut this door.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, M0JSX. And Callum has asked me here because I did 5.5 years working for Martin Lynch & Sons. And yeah, as Callum says, I know things. I'm not sure what they are at this end of the day, but I know things. Remember name. Right. Remember call sign.
So I happen to have, Jonathan, it was a comment the other day, and you and I have been discussing this particular stream for quite a while, but this individual just happened to mention what he wanted out of an HF radio, so I copied it down. So I'll just run these past you and we will decide if these radios already exist and whatever else. Easy touch screen access. So I just want to talk about menus. I'm a linear, is it the right word? A linear, like a Kenwood, the old Yaesu, the current Kenwood TS990, where you go menu, section 7, go all the way down. It's at 5.2, switch that bit on. Now, I mean, I like that, but that's because I'm possibly old. But the 7300 and 9700 and stuff, or 7900, whatever, that's push button, like an Android or an iPhone, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Do some people prefer one menu to another type system?
I think I certainly prefer the Icom system because I find it very intuitive. But I imagine there are, but in the way in which touchscreen has been implemented on Icom versus how it's been implemented on Yaesu, for instance, because the things like the FT-DX101 and the DX10 and the FT710 have also got a touchscreen interface, but it's done in a different way to how Icom have done it, as you'd expect. And I prefer it on the Icom system. I find it a bit more intuitive, but I'm sure there are people out there who will go, no, actually, the Yaesu way of doing things makes sense for me. And who's to say one thing's better than the other?
Okay. So, I mean, that's really ergonomic. Is that the right word? And the user interface?
Yeah, exactly. And sort of personal preference.
Yeah. Does the Icom, like the 7300, does it also have what I call an old-fashioned linear one inside it? You can scroll around, or have you got to hit the buttons?
You've got to hit the buttons. And then once you're into sort of a deep dive on the settings, so once you get into things like tone control, for instance, once you've done menu and then set, then it kind of looks a bit more linear, but it's still pushing buttons on the screen. You can use the select knob. That does work.
Okay.
It's not the way it's intended to be used.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, while we're getting there, I've just written down the word software. All right. So I just want to, let's just stick on a base station. All right. Now, a lot of you might remember like an FT1000MP, some of the bigger old dual VFO base stations, or the single ones. Jonathan, give me a 10-year-old single VFO old-fashioned HF rig. Maybe
FT Oh, hang on, FT950. I'm pretty sure that was only
Okay,
one
yeah,
VFO. Or,
that was a big radio, wasn't it, with a single
yeah,
VFO?
or FT450D.
Mm-hmm.
10-year-old
Okay.
radio.
So if we think about some of these 10-year-old, well, more, about 20 years old, aren't they?
Mm.
VFO radios, and the world hadn't reinvented yet for the next 20 years, we can build on to that what we really want. So I'm going to rattle off a few things, all right? And I'm expecting some people on the live chat to go, yes, no, whatever. So we need USB for both sound card and remote. And do we then need an RS-232 as well, Jonathan?
Arguably not, but some people would find it useful.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, we do, because yes, we do. Because thinking about it, because some amplifiers use RS-232 control, so yes, we do.
Okay, so we need both USB and RS-232. Right. Why? Let's focus on the back panel. Some of these manufacturers, Kenwood particularly, have got a multi-pin everything that switches amplifiers. It's got audio in and out and everything else. But I remember in the very old days, you used to have a key for the amplifier, you used to have an audio key, you used to have, like on phono jacks and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what the people want on the live chat here. Do you want single sockets for your linear amplifier control? What do you want? All right. What's your preference, do you think, Jonathan?
I think I'm very happy with a multi-pin connector, because I don't think that anybody is going to be wanting. Okay, I think it'd be rare to want to use everything from that connector.
Yeah.
And as long as you get a DIN plug with some flying leads in the box, which you most do now, it'll be all right.
Okay. I quite like the DIN phono jack, the linear amplifier keying. That's my only preference, but
yeah,
because I find it easy to source and I can always just fire up, because an amplifier is either on or off. But whatever. Okay, fine. So we don't mind the multi-pin. All right. So your basic radio, not Shack in the Box. Let's not do 270 yet. The minimum amount of coax connectors on the back should be what, do you think?
Minimum 2.
Yeah. So 2 like SO239s?
Yeah. And then if you've got and then if you're going to put a third on, then you make it RX only on whatever connector you want, BNC, phono.
Yes.
You have another SO239. But
yeah. Now, and as Jeff just said, he wants receive and transmit for each VFO. We'll come to dual VFOs in a minute. Personally, I'd want 2 receive jacks. But maybe I'm odd. Maybe the manufacturer thinks, oh, to hell with it. If they want more than one receive, they're clearly an uber geek and they can have a blooming switch, and that's up to them.
I think it then comes down to how many VFOs you're putting on it. But yeah, I think you would be in the minority of people needing multiple receive antenna sockets.
Yeah, I think so. So the back panel, what else have we got on the back panel that we normally... So we got, right, in the modern day, I think we should have an external display of some description.
Yeah,
what
I
do
agree.
You think?
Well, it needs to be HDMI.
HDMI?
Yeah. Why HDMI hasn't been adopted across amateur radio, I'm not entirely sure, because, DVI seems to still be winning. But
some $2 license fee or something, probably.
Yeah, it needs to be HDMI.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to the external display in a minute. Okay. So that's at the back. Now, if it's a reasonable base station now, should it be mains or 12 volt?
Depends on the price point, if I'm honest, because I think, and also depends on the output power. If we're looking at just 100 watts, then I think 12 volts is fine.
Yes.
If we're looking at sort of 200 watts, then either it's going to need to have an external power supply next to it,
yeah,
or internally Yeah, I think if it's 100 watts, 12 volts
A
is
100
fine.
watt radio, 12 volts is fine.
Yeah, that's my
I
preference.
actually agree with that. Okay, because it keeps the size down as well. We'll come on to some how to a kind of a fantasy radio, because I've got a fantasy radio in my mind as well. And what? Not the spoof, the
It's not the Kenwood
1090.
1090. Yeah, is it not
Yeah,
that
the
one?
Kenwood 1090. And I'll find a picture of that while we're doing this. But the Kenwood 1090 I invented, which was a 3VFO TS990, which was an April Fool's spoof. But somebody put in a picture of it, took it down to Martin Lynch and Sons, said, "Can you show me this radio, please?" Apparently last week.
I find that very funny. The kid didn't watch the end of that video.
Pardon? They didn't obviously
to the
watch
end
it.
of-
No, that's right. And Jeff's got also saying 12 watts is good. You don't eliminate noise in some environments or whatever. Okay. Difference in S points was 3 dB. So whatever, 100 watts to 200 watts is 3 dB. It does give you more cut power on SSB, that's for sure. Right, let's spin round to the front of this radio now.
Before we do,
Yes.
I think, and I'm going to be in the minority here, I want a second mic socket on the rear.
I think I agree with you completely.
Because that would make it such, when you're using a headset or anything, unless you're using a fist mic that's plugging into the front, I find it such a pain in the backside to have this funky connector sticking out the front for it, in my case, for it just to go towards the back of the radio anyway.
Okay. While we're on mic sockets, do you want the old sort of CB or 8-pin or 7 round, or do we go for this, what I call RJ45 or whatever it is?
Honestly, I don't mind. Probably 8-pin round, because if I wanted to make my own cable up, it's going to be easier to solder an 8-pin round than it is to crimp an RJ45. But I'm not fussed.
Okay. And I can see the benefit on a small mobile radio why they put these little sockets in, because they're little PCB mounted. It takes up less. The thing is, with a big chassis mount, 8-pin, it's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Right, I was going to come round to the front. So if we take that 920, was it the old? It was a big beast, wasn't it? Probably not a lot in it, actually. It was a big BFO on the front. You got the display, but we're gonna modernise. We're gonna give it a reasonable, what do they call it? A TFT display, some sort of 5-6 inch thing.
That'd be nice, yeah. Nice big display, nice waterfall on it.
So I'm not going to come up with all the knobs and switches, but we need enough for doing day-to-day work, like filters, your EQ maybe, if you're into that sort of thing. But I tell you what, I just want a button. And my 990's got it, but it's hidden somewhere. I can't remember. Because sometimes I want to go between, let's say, FT8, SSB, and something else, AM, and completely different settings. And with a modern radio, they're mostly software driven inside. I mean, if I fire up my software on the TS990, I can put the volume up and down. The volume control itself doesn't actually move because it's all, encoded in the back. I just can't understand why they can't give me 4 or 5 different, cycle through them. That's me on FM, that's me on AM, that's me on SSB, this is my digital. I would like that. I don't know what people think about that. I use a lot of different modes all the time.
So the buttons change based upon...
They change the front panel settings for my filters. It will go from... So number 3, I might program this is going to be AM with, and it's 4 kilohertz wide, and it might have a repeater shift. I don't know,
Okay.
This button is just because I'm going to be doing digital now, and I want to instigate. I want to shut my microphone off. I want to open up the port on the back for the USB, for my audio. I want to change my filter settings.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff just said that the 7300 kind of does it kind of already does that because it
Here we are.
remembers.
Stored. Oh, I didn't know it does that, does it?
Yeah, so you can in the 7300 on one of the later firmwares, and the same applies to the 705 and the 9700 as well. It has profiles which you can set up and save. So by default, it gives you an FT8 profile,
Yes.
but you can save as many profiles as you want. So you can do exactly that. So if you wanted to have a profile set up for CW, and it remembers your settings, you can do that. But even without doing that, but I'm thinking about the 7300 because that's the radio I have and use most often. When you change modes, the radio restores the settings you had when you last used that mode on that band. So
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So yeah. So for instance, I use FT8 quite a bit, and I sort of split between using USB data and USB for for single sideband. And if I have what my filter set up, so I'm as wide as a barn door on FT8, sort of 33.6K. But on on SSB, when I want to be using voice, I narrow that down to about 2.7, 2.4 kilohertz.
Okay.
When I change between the two, it remembers that setting. So yeah, the Icom's kind of already got ahead of the curve on that one. I'm kind of surprised that the Kenwood doesn't.
The Kenwood's got user A and user B, but it does a full reboot.
Right. Okay. So every time you change mode,
and then you got to go and put the kettle on, and it like restores everything, but memory channels, the lot.
But when you're just changing mode, so if you went from, so if you go from SSB to CW,
I've got data 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, CW is fine. Yeah, that changes. But then I've got data 1, 2, and 3 on the 990, for instance, and that just and I think it might remember that. But
right.
I can't. If I go from SSB and hit the AM button, it just stays where it was. Well, you want AM now? What you want to do?
Oh, I see. So it doesn't restore
everything. So it doesn't actually it just goes. Okay, now you're on AM.
Oh, I'm in AM. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now I want to be able to go. I'm on AM, but I want to go at 29,100 now. Maybe. Right. Oh, hang on a minute. I've got an idea. No, it wouldn't do that either. I've got 3 10 meters buttons. I've got 10 meters 1, 10 meters 2, 10 meters 3. I could probably select one of those, and that would go, I remember what you were doing then. So actually, probably that's a user error, that is.
Yeah, it's the 7300 and Icom does that very similarly. It doesn't give you sort of 3 separate. I mean, it does on the 7610, but it on the 7300, if you tap in the band stacking register again, and then you tap on the same band you're already on, it just flips to the next profile. Okay. And you've got three per band.
Yeah, James says stackable buttons is pretty standard. Yeah, I think we think so. So, okay, I think we call that profiles, don't we? So that's important, isn't it? All right, that particularly if you are rejigging your firmware for your, 8900 or 890 or whatever it is, user profiles is good. Okay, I just want to ask the people viewing this currently what we think we should have else on the front panel. We're going to have processor, you're going to have your volume, and you're going to have your squelch and your RF gain. Is there anything that is currently not on a front panel button that we need, that you offer? Kenwood's got two programmable buttons on a huge radio, PFA1, PFA and PFB, whatever. I don't know, programmable function A, programmable function B. And I can tell that to do anything. But I wouldn't mind like a little block of 6 or something that I can program particularly what I want. Programmable buttons.
Yeah.
Do other have that? Do other companies have that? The buttons that don't do anything until you tell them, I want you to do this when I hit it.
So Icom, I don't know about Yaesu, but Icom, you can change the function of a button.
Okay.
So I think on the 7300, you can change 2 of the buttons, regardless of what it says on the knob, but you can actually change what the function of that button is.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never done that, but I know it does. I know you can.
Yes. Okay. Right. I'm very close to this fantasy radio of mine in a minute. Right. However, let's just talk remote control. with the internet being, so easy, and people having, perhaps more than one location or whatever else, I'm going to call out Kenwood here. Kenwood's got a fairly archaic piece of software to run a very expensive machine, right? It does work. It does work, but I would expect it just to be a little bit more whiz bang. All right. So once you've got, you just need 2 or 3 developers for a few months. I realise it's going to cost a lot of money, but there is nothing to stop a manufacturer writing a piece of software to access in a really nice UI everything inside that radio. Surely, Jonathan.
No.
So what about the 73? Does the 7300 have a really nice piece of front-end software? You can do everything from mic gain, EQ, the lot.
Yes, it does, but it costs. That's the thing. So Icom has the RSBA1 software, which is beautiful. It's Windows only, unfortunately, but it does work. It works better with radios that have the server function baked into the radio. So 7610, 9700, 705, and even old radios, things like the 7850 and 7851 have the server function in the radio. But
can you just explain what that means?
Okay, so
server function.
So you have the client, you have your computer that you're using locally wherever you are in the world. That's the client, and then whatever you're talking to is the server. So with the 7300, for instance, you have to have it plugged into a computer over USB, and that computer is then acting as the server for the radio. Whereas the 7610 and the 9700 and the 705 and the 7851 have got some way of connecting to the internet themselves. So with the 7610 and the 9700 and the 7851, it's over an Ethernet cable. With the 705, it's over Wi-Fi. And therefore the server is in the radio. So you don't have to worry about having a computer running next to the radio.
So you don't have a separate client.
No, you don't have it plugged into anything in order to talk to it. It's just
you literally plug the thing into your router, give it an IP address, and you can get to it.
You have to do a bit of port forwarding.
Yeah, okay, well that's fine.
But it's very easy to do. So that's it's not free. And before someone gets ahead of me, yes, WF View also exists, which is free. That works okay. That is at least cross-platform, so you can use that from Mac and Linux as well. But it doesn't look as pretty.
Okay.
The Icom software does look like you're looking at a radio. They've mimicked the sort of styling very closely.
Now, Mike, by the way, Mike, I'll send you a link if you want to join us in about 10 or 15 minutes when we're done here. Let me know in the comments. And if I miss it, remind me. So now Mike is saying that 998 and 890 have got servers inside a radio. I can't remember if they did. I've got to run that piece of software, haven't I?
I think they do.
ACRP or something?
Yeah, the ACRP 990 or 890. Yeah, I mean, I've used that software. It is, it does feel like you're running Windows XP. But it does work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very not pretty.
Okay, I'm just getting a link for Mike in case he did want to join us here in a bit, depending how drunk he is. Copy that text.
It's a Saturday night. Mike will be, well gone by now.
Oh no, let's find the right Mike, shall we? Where would you like to go? I want to go and see Mike. There he is. I'll put it on Discard, Mike. Join in. We'll just let Jonathan and I finish off, if you wouldn't mind. I'm glad I'm talking about software because you know more about this than me. I would like a piece of software for a rate, or somebody. Jonathan, you were saying there's some free software that is not quite as pretty but does actually work. Is that for any radio? Or
no? So that's for WFU is for Icom only, as far as I'm aware, anyway.
Okay.
Because it uses kind of the same protocol that the Icom software uses. If you just wanted something running locally on your computer which could talk to your radio so you can change some basic functionality, then FL Rig is pretty good.
Okay.
I use that to talk to the 7300, which then and then I have multiple bits of software that talk to FlRig.
Uh-huh.
So in my setup, I have two logging programs running in the background, as well as if I'm running FT8, for instance, then I've also got WSJTX. All
Yeah.
three are talking to FlRig to get frequency data and
Right.
power I'm putting out and things like that. But you can also change things like volume and RF gain and squelch level and things like that.
Yeah, okay. On my hit list, Jonathan, for a really nice piece of software, if I was the radio manufacturer, I'd be talking to my development crew and I was going, give me a front end that looks super cool and is not so much programmable, but drag and drop. In other words, I can take the menus and I can grab them and put them over here. I can get my display and drag them over here. And, I can easily get to the EQ function, the mic gain, make it almost put as much effort into that software as you did the front panel in the bloody first place, not as an afterthought. And the other thing while I'm at it, Icom, you're saying that because I've got a 97, what's the 2 and 70 fancy radio that I've got? Is
The
it
9700.
9700? So I've got to pay, what, £100 or something to get the software to remote control that?
Yeah, about that. So you can.
Okay.
The problem with that is that Icom UK won't sell you the software on its own.
Ah,
So you can with Icom UK will only it's from a support point of view, because
yeah.
otherwise they can't verify your purchase. So they will only sell you the control software with the fancy VFO USB plug-in control, which is really nice. It's a nice bit of kit, but it does add about 150 quid onto the price. Um, there are other sources for that software that you can
Uh,
buy it on its own. But yeah,
okay,
so on its own,
okay.
I think it's about 890 euros or something like that.
Yeah. Now, Kenwood, although it is sort of Windows 95, look, you could
Yeah.
just download that and run it. And I've actually live streamed on a remote with the ARCP, whatever it's called.
Hmm.
I just don't understand why they don't just give it away. I mean, surely if they give it away, more people are going to buy the hardware because the software's free, you know? I mean, that's so low. If you're
Yeah.
watching this from Yaesu, Kenwood, or Icom, or any other manufacturer, designs really nice some front-end software. Make it a little bit programmable, drag and drop, bigger display. You can do whatever you want with it. It's not a hell of a lot of development time with modern tools. I know, because I was in the software industry. And just make it nice. Give it away. People buy more of your stuff because the software works. While we're on about the software, and we spoke about the rear panel, and we spoke about the rear microphone jack. I mean, this is a bit of a dream, and I don't know if you're going to believe me here, but I would like more than one sound card in the radio. Is that crazy or not?
No, because I'd also like more than one sound card in a radio.
Right. Okay. Why would
And
you like?
okay, I suspect my reason is similar to your reason.
Okay.
I want more than one sound card in a radio so that I can pull audio out to multiple computers.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like that as well. Or send it somewhere else. Yeah.
Or send it somewhere else. So for me, if I do any live streaming from on the radio, I'm using one computer in order to get sound in and out of the computer that I might be running digital modes on, for instance. And I want to
Yeah.
leave that alone. I don't want to be messing around with
I know.
that.
Yeah.
And then I use a separate computer for streaming, which I need to get audio from or audio into. So I have to rely on the DIN connector on the back of my 7300 in order to pull out the receive audio,
Yeah.
which works, but it would be so much easier if I could just plug in another USB cable.
Yeah. I want to send different audio to it from different places. Maybe from a mixer, maybe from a computer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't use it. I can't show you right now. This camera might see it, actually. A little bit. 1, 2. We'll just see. I don't know. But anyway, there's some software. It's 18 channel software, right? But it surely can't be that much money to put a couple of basically a software mixer inside the bloody toy.
I wouldn't have thought so.
I mean, that's all it is. It's going to be a software mixer and not a couple of components, I'm sure. Okay, so now I want to come up with a dream machine, all right? I would love, and I'm pretty sure this would sell quite well. Right. I want you to imagine you can buy a single VFO radio box, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to then buy a second VFO for it one day and either clip it to it on some fancy thing or like a ribbon cable or something from behind to make it a 2 VFO radio from a single VFO radio. That's what I would like. And wouldn't it be fun to somehow turn it into a 3 VFO radio so you can actually daisy chain VFOs on it? You've gone a bit out of focus, by the way.
Oh, have I? Oh, well, I've not touched it.
Maybe you haven't. Maybe it's probably my freaking eyes.
It's probably been that rubbish. We'll start with.
So do you, and in thousands of years ago, before radio was invented, I think it was the FT 902 or 101, there was a second VFO you could buy just for I think it was 6 meters, actually. I can't remember. Don's got a VFO, 4 VFOs. Don, is that for real? Can you do that with like a Flex or something?
Yeah. You've got slices on the Flex. So
what does that mean?
So you can essentially have like 8 receivers.
Wow.
Basically.
You just keep adding them. Are they lumps of hardware or?
So so what Flex terms slice receivers. So I think what that means is it's been a while since I've played with Flex, but you can have as many receivers as up to 8 within a particular passband. But the passband is huge. So yeah, you could be listening on 2 places on 40, 2 places on 20, for instance, and
okay. So that would be like 4 receivers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
are they sorry, I may not have been concentrating. Is that a particular piece of hardware that you buy?
No, it's based upon the model that you buy. So if you buy the really expensive Flex, the 6600, or even the 6700, yeah, you can have up to 8 slice receivers.
Okay. And that comes already inbuilt?
That comes as standard with the radio.
Wow. Oh, I see. John has just confirmed that for us. Oh, right. They're called slices. That's interesting. But if you're not Flex, you're Kenwood or whatever, and you like the 890, wouldn't it be great if a little box you could plug next to it and just bolt it on? Either went clunk, that wouldn't be right, would it? You'd have to just sit it next to it and some ribbon cable thing.
Yeah.
And you had a second receiver. I just think that'd be really, really cool.
You kind of can-ish, depending if your radio's got an IF output.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Ish.
Or even an RF output, as some do.
But you need 2 microphones. You can't just swap over to it. It's
no, you
difficult.
can't. It is a bit of a pain in the backside.
And also with the 890, you can put a TS 590 next to it, but I mean, it's a little bit clunky. I watched the video the other day. Okay, now a lot of us have got tablets, iPads, phones, or whatever else. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to wirelessly connect your tablet, iPad, whatever else?
Oh,
just to see this extra display. Does that happen?
You are talking my language now. So there is a third-party application. Again, I'm going to talk Icom here. I'm very sorry that I'm talking Icom so much.
Okay, that's fine.
There is a third-party application called SDR Console, I think it's called, which is available for both iPad and iPhone. I don't believe there's an Android version of it.
Right.
But it's by the same guy that developed essentially the same software for Flex. A guy called Marcus over in Germany.
Right.
So you can remote control your no, it has to be a radio. So remember I said earlier on about radios that have the server function inside them.
Yes.
for the Icom software. So if you have one of
Yes.
those radios, you can use this software on your iPad
Okay.
or your iPhone um,
Oh.
to connect your radio from wherever you're on the road. Yeah, SDR console works from many. Yeah, it can be made to work with. I have it working with my 7300 as well. And the way you do that is you use the WFU application that I mentioned earlier on, so your computer is then acting as a server. But it works really nicely,
What's
really
Rob
nicely.
saying there on the screen,
Same
Jonathan?
cell phone anywhere against internet connection. And okay, so RCF Orb. That's Rob's going to correct me if I'm wrong now. So RCF Orb is part of the Remote Hams suite. I've used that as well. So if I want to go off and play as my K6JSX call sign, there are a number of remote stations in the States that I can use. RCF Orb is part of that, as far as I'm aware. So you can set up your own server and do that. It works. In my experience, that's a bit clunky. I know that MFJ also have a solution as well. They called it the RigPi. That's
Okay.
very clunky, but that's been some time since I've used it.
Okay. Yeah, I think Rob's saying it's remote hams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Should So if we take my 990 or an 890 or a big, what's the fanciest, biggest Icom currently for sale? There was a really nice one at $6,000, $7,000, $8,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know whether there's any 7851 still floating about. I kind of doubt it now.
Right.
So you're probably looking realistically at the 7610.
Okay. Roughly how much is that in pounds, Jonathan?
I think when I last checked, about 3.3.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, is that top of the range radio these days for HF?
It's comparable, I would argue, to the 890.
Okay.
It's comparable to the 101D because it's only 100 watts.
Okay.
So that's the thing that would hold it back for some people. If you want a 200 watt radio, then you're looking 990 or the 101 MP.
Okay. Yeah, fine. Now, both of those are dual VFOs.
Yes. Yeah. The 7610 is dual VFO, but in a bizarre move by Icom, they only put one VFO knob on the front.
Okay. All right. And are all dual 2 VFO radios 2 bands at the same time? Do you know? Like you can have 20 and 15.
On the market now, yeah, I would have thought so. I don't think of any that aren't.
Okay. The old 5000, I wonder if that did. I don't know.
Yeah, to 5000 you could have on 2 different bands at the same time.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I suppose I've got... I mean, funnily enough, I've got a funny feeling, actually, what I'm after is probably a Flex, you know.
I think you might be.
The sort of guy I am, yeah.
The thing about Flex for me...
It's functionality I'm after, not the front panels. I love front panels. I love big radios, don't get me wrong. But I think I need more remote control ability and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Jeff is saying the 7851 is still available. I think that depends where in the world you are, Jeff.
Ah, okay.
As to whether they're still available or not. I think they've officially stopped making them. But there could well be some left in supply chain. And given the fact, going by your call sign, your stateside, it wouldn't surprise me if Icom America has still got a few knocking around.
Yeah. Because I've got, I know it sounds funny, but you know the monitor button? So on your headphones, you can hear yourself.
Yeah.
Does that come out the back of the radio?
On a Flex?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, because if you're live streaming, you don't want to be, every time you key the microphone, you go silent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to go silent. But also, and the thing that I think would put some people off is the thought of it being SDR and everything digital, there being a delay, but there isn't. Because have you ever tried?
People worry about that, do they?
Yeah, I've had some people ask me that question in the past, but there's no delay at all because that bit's all done in analog.
Okay. John Jendra's just saying that. There was another comment I wanted to read. He's waiting for the remote control app for the 4K, K4. The demo app is very functional. I don't think I heard a feature on the wish list that the friends that can't meet. Okay, fine. Oh, thanks for that, Jenny. Plug and play for 2 meters or 70 sems. This is where the outboard matching transverter, if you like, you can call it.
Well, this is okay. So I don't know. I mean, Jody, they've got a K4. They can probably answer better than I can. I know that the K3, so K3 certainly had a transverter board for 4
It
meters.
did.
I'm sure.
It had a 2 as well. Actually.
Yeah, it had a 2. It did have a 2 meter transverter board.
So you could put that inside, couldn't you? You could either buy the outboard 2 meter. I think the K3 had an inboard 2 meter. Might have even had 77. I don't know if you can fit the 70 and 2 in it at the same time. But
I'm sure you could only fit one transverter board at a time. And I'm sure the same is on the K3, KX3 as well, where you can only have one transverter board. So, a little tiny KX3, if you wanted one, you could have it on 4 meters or you could have it on 2 meters if you wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to be able to install at your own spec the number of transverter boards you wanted.
Yeah.
That'd be good. And Don's right. The Sun SDR, that does have a 2 meter module in it, which is nice.
Okay, you've spoken about that before, haven't you?
Yeah, Sun SDR's it's a nice bit of kit. Is the Sun. The software is brilliant. It's multi-platform, so it can run on Mac or Windows. I think there might be a Linux version as well. I'm not 100% sure, but it's nice and easy. And it works really well.
Okay, Mike, if you're still in the chat, join us, mate, because I want to move to right. We're going to move to mobile in a minute. Is there anything you would like to see on your HF, apart from maybe Bluetooth or Wi-Fi capability to your iPad, which we skimmed over briefly?
Yeah.
And a programmable, display, because we've all got, I've got 3 displays here. It'd be great to have, your waterfall here and whatever, all your buttons here, controlling, that sort of thing. Is there anything else you think?
I would like the ability to plug a keyboard into it, but maybe a mouse, and run applications like WSJTX, FT8, or something for PSK on the radio itself.
Would you now?
Yeah.
And I know Kenwood's had that for years.
Kenwood has had it for years, but not for things like FT8. I know that I know that the MB1, again from Sun SDR, that will do that because essentially it's got a Windows computer inside it as well. But I think that would be nice.
Yeah. Mike's in the green room. Just I'll let him in a minute.
No. We have to watch ourselves now.
One of the reasons Ham Radio Deluxe couldn't put FT8 is because it was a commercial product. And one of the reasons that
no, it's not. It's open source.
Not Ham Radio Deluxe.
Because Ham Radio Deluxe is commercials.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I see. Because they were charging for the software.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's why we're not going to be able to get FT8 on it.
That's
unless you ran Windows or Linux on the box itself. And we've spoken about that before. And you mentioned that there is a radio which you can actually run Windows on.
The Sun SDR MB1 series. Okay. So it's the MB1 and the MB1 Prime. That is a win. So that is essentially inside that box. You've got a Sun SDR 2DX almost, and a Windows computer and a network switch because the radio is talking to itself on an IP address. So because you've got a Windows computer in there, you can do anything on it. You can watch YouTube on your radio. Yeah.
Okay. Fine. All right. So if you work for Icom, Yaesu, Kenwood, whatever else. This might have been interesting. I'll put a list in the description of all the things that we would like to see on our radios. Thank you very much. Don't go anywhere, guys. I was just closing off that so I can edit this out. All right, so in the meantime, these videos coming up here. See you on the next one. Bye for now. Right, now it's a complete free-for-all because, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Mike on the stream. Ladies and gentlemen, he's got his tape over his mouth so he can't talk. Now, while we're doing this, I wonder if we can get all three. It doesn't look so good, does it? We'll have it this way. Okay, Mike, you can take the tape off now. You've got formal... You got formal acknowledgement from Jonathan and I that you're allowed to speak now.
That's going to hurt coming off.
Lovely. So anyway, that's the. We'll edit that down, all right, and give the manufacturers something to fun about. Now, Mike has recently bought the 500.
Yes. Good evening.
And he put that in his car, and he showed me the other day his, what's it, FT, what do they call it? The little 500, $8 million, whatever it is.
Yes, the FTM 500 from Yaesu.
That's right. Now that you've had that, you've had a few radios in your car, and so have I. If you could design your own 270, Mike, What is currently the world missing, do you believe? And I'll ask everybody on the comments as well.
Well, to be honest with you, one of the things that's missing is a built-in gateway. So if you're using D-Star or you're using System Fusion, it would be really nice if the radio actually had a slot to put a SIM in it, so that it would actually be its own Pi Star, if you like. So that would be quite nice. Apart from that, 2 and 70, well, yeah, they work perfectly. So there's nothing nothing wrong with them, really. Just yeah, I would like to see a radio with actually a slot in it so that you could put a mobile SIM or perhaps an eSIM, so there'd be no slot. You just have a bit of data with it.
All right, Jonathan, what's your take on that?
That would be nice. As close as we can get to that currently would be the terminal mode or access point mode that exists within Icom radio. So if for instance, you were to be using your...
What? Another Icom?
Yes, I know. We're stuck there. If you're using the 705 over Wi-Fi, you can use that. It's not great. It doesn't really particularly work well, but it does kind of that functionality as you described. But yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think if you could get a SIM card into your radio in order to access the gateways, you can do. Having said that, there's the R-Finder, the B1, which is a phone with a DMR radio in it, which will do DMR over IP. So that's
and it's 2 and 70, but it's a handheld, isn't it?
It's a handheld and it's a grand.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so there is when it comes to 2 meters and 77s FM and fusion and all the other weird shit that I don't get into. There's
a lot of it.
I would say there's a lot of variety, isn't there? From a couple of $100 upwards. Even a handheld with a little bit of coax to a mag mount on the roof. There's a lot to be done. And I'll tell you what Tom has always complained about. Mike, what's that radio? Is it the 71? There was a shack in the box radio with a flip off front. Jonathan, do you remember that? An Icom, I think it was.
It's a 7100. 7100. It's not quite flip off. It's the it's at an angle, isn't it? Looks like a desktop.
Okay, he's definitely got a radio with a flip off. Or had a radio? Is that 7,000?
7,000.
7,000, yeah.
You had it could clip on the body of the radio, or you could remote head it.
And was that a multi-mode shack in the box as well?
Yes, that was top band through to 77s.
70, right? Okay. So
same as the 706, and then the 7,000.
Yeah, and 857 if you want to go Yaesu.
Yep.
Okay. So what on the market does 100 watts on HF, 100 or 50 on 70 and 20 on 2 and 70 or whatever, that has got a flip-off front.
The only thing
the
7100.
Icom 7100, yeah.
That's the only one on the market currently.
Has that
Which
got a flip-off? It's
it's-
not. It's
it's
just
got-
a big radio with a weird,
It's a permanently detached front panel. I think is the best way.
and
to
that's called
describe
an Icom 7100.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just look that one up.
That's the only shack in the box, isn't it? That's
It is.
that or
which
the
annoys me.
991A, but that's not a flip off front.
That's not Mo. And it's not Mo. I don't like how Yaesu are describing this 991A as
Yeah, it's too big.
a mobile radio. It's not. I've never seen anyone try and mount one of those in their car.
Except for Ian.
Yeah, which
Yeah, go
one?
for it.
Yaesu what?
Yaesu 991A.
Okay. Oh, blimey, that's a bit big, isn't it, for a car?
I suppose
Does the front come off that?
No. No.
Right, okay.
is it the 857 that we've got?
Yeah, 857 is what I've got.
But it's not a current model, is it?
It's not a current model. You can't. I mean, they're readily available on second-hand market because they were made.
But
so
brand
long.
new, there's the 480 Sat. That's not made anymore, is it, by Kenwood?
It's not, but that was only HF and 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I
And there was
suppose
a 200 watt version of that.
I suppose the 705 is available, but
It's not 100 watts. You
It's
see.
10 watts.
QRP, isn't it? Yeah.
Honestly, I've used HF Mobile, and that was a struggle at 100 watts into the base of the antenna.
Yeah.
I dread to think how hard it would be and how demoralizing it would be to try and run 10 watts
10 watts on 40 meters.
on 40 meters into a hamstick. That would be, I mean, you may as well be transmitting into a dummy load at that point.
Yeah, I know. You probably do better. So what you're saying is the only current radio that is available brand new with a flip-off front, and if you don't mind me saying the flip-off front looks blooming awful, is the IC7.
IC 7100, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll show you a picture of that, ladies and gentlemen, just in case. 7100.
The redeeming feature for me about 7100 is to not use it mobile. I think if you were to use it,
On your desk.
if you use it in
The
chat,
redeeming
yeah.
feature is not to use it.
Yeah.
But if you were to use
How
it,
are you supposed to put that in your car? I'm sorry.
There is a mount.
there is a mount. So on the bottom of the head, you have a standard sort of camera tripod type mount.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you could. It is quite easy to mount it.
Yeah,
if
but
you
how
do-
are you going to read the buttons? It's not flat.
You'd have to angle it.
Yeah, okay.
There are people that use it, and it is a bloody good radio. I will say that for it.
yeah,
It is a good
really
radio.
nice. It is really nice. It's got a USB sound card inside. It's okay. It's on a
Is it
mini
really?
USB,
Okay.
but-
So Lee's saying the 7100 is not available in the US. They're probably starting to stop making it now.
No, so 7100s. I mean, everything from Icom at the moment is on short supply, but they had to redesign. So in the height of COVID, when there was that, and when there was also a component factory fire in Japan, which affected Icom and it also affected Kenwood as well. Along
that
with a
was
bunch
really
of other
happened, did it?
manufacturers. Yeah, oh yeah, it really happened. That is the whole reason that the D74 went out of production.
Right.
Because
okay.
Kenwood couldn't source the parts anymore, the components, and their only option was to redesign the radio, which is a step that Kenwood didn't want to do. Icom had the same problem with the 7100,
Right.
but Icom decided because the 7100 was such a good seller for them,
yes.
they decided to redesign the radio, which also meant they had to reapply to the FCC to get it recertified. So the 7100, I mean, it might be sort of on short supply at the moment because the Icom's factories produce a bunch of one radio and then a bunch of another radio and then a bunch of another radio, hoping that it all evens out over the year.
Yeah.
So it's probably just a case of that we're between bunches of radios being produced.
Okay.
That's orgasmic, that is, mate. I tell you, that's Kenwood.
Well,
Well, that new
That-
one. Oh, that one. Yeah, okay.
That's what I've got one of them, and I've got
Of
the
my-
little
my-
RC 2000 for it as well. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Of course, you know the open secret about the RC2000.
Go ahead.
It is
isn't it a copy of a different model?
it's just the head from a TMD 710.
Yeah.
So if you have a
and
TMD
they both
710
work, don't they?
Yeah, if you have a TMD 710 that's just lying about not doing anything, and you also have a TS 2000 you're using the car.
What? I've got both.
Yeah,
I've
I
got
know,
both.
I
I've
know,
got
Mike.
both, but I'm not
I didn't
using
want to
one.
tell you.
I've got both.
Yeah, you can use the control head from a TMD 710 as an
Get
RC
out of here, really?
Yeah, it works
What,
flawlessly.
on the latest one or the older one or both, or doesn't it make any difference?
I think as long as it's not the very last TMD 710, I think it works.
Okay, because that's all right then. I don't feel such a prat for buying one now. Then.
Okay.
How far did you drive to get it, Mike?
Oh,
he went
very
to
far.
Bolton.
Oh, yes.
So is that the one you mean there? Is that
That's,
the control?
Yeah.
that's the new
yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's the one I've got.
Ah,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
that's
fine.
the new one. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful radio. Actually, the biggest missing thing on the market at the moment is a multi-mode for 2 and 70. That's missing.
Can I say why it's never
Sorry
going to
about that.
happen?
You may.
So look at the 9700 as the prime example of why a mobile 2 and 70 multi-mode is not going to happen.
A
And it's
9700.
because of the market and the price. If a manufacturer was to make that radio, make a mobile 270 multi-mode, the price of it, because of the number that would actually sell, would be astronomically expensive.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
what
He's had
happened?
his hour. He's had his hour. That's it. Oh, so he's talking about being astronomically expensive. However, you and I have got a secret, Mike, haven't we?
Yes. Have we?
Yeah. That Jonathan will be back. He probably is computer brag or something.
Yeah.
There's nothing to start a radio about the size of a TS2000,
No.
right? So, I mean, there's a lot. Okay, we'll poll the viewers as well. If you remember so it's a sort of shoebox size, a bit bigger. You know, it's squarer than a shoebox, maybe not as high. A TS2000 size, which is about 30 centimeters. It's about 14 inches square and about 3 inches high, isn't it?
Yeah,
TS2000.
go with that. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
So all you need is to sell that as a fine base station, and sell them for 500 quid a remote head if they want it.
Yeah.
Because Mike and I have both got TS2000s, and we've both got the RC2000 head.
Yeah.
And we're both about to put TS2000 in the car.
Yeah.
And I've had it before, if you remember. I put it in the car, and I'll find I was going to find a picture of it or a video, whatever. You're going to do that. I'll just make sure. Maybe Jonathan's had a power cut or something. It'd be funny if I left and we all left, and the stream just ran with nothing on it here. So, Jonathan.
Jonathan just comes back. Where is everybody?
You've got a power cut, ? But that's the only reliable way of doing, or somebody's saying a remote head for a 991A. It's the only reliable way. If you get a really nice, what I call economical shack in the box, in other words, it's got to be under $2,000, 1,500 quid or whatever. And yeah, I did take it out of the car, Don, because I swapped cars, mate, about 16 months ago. It was 17 years old, my old car. No, it was falling apart. But anyway.
Almost as old as the radio.
Yeah. So you take a shack in the box. I mean, there's got to be a market for someone who could make a generic front panel that would just, you've just got some dip switches or something in the back, and you can say, oh, this is for the TS2000, you plug it in, or you put a USB interface and you just tell it, oh, that's the software, get on with it.
Yeah, I think someone said in the chat that it would be great if Yaesu came up with a remote head for the 991A or similar, and that's what they need to do. These shack in the boxes that are capable of being car mounted would be really, really great if the companies would come up with remote heads at a reasonable cost. I think they'd sell more. I really do. And I don't understand the argument for not having a multi-mode 2 and 70 radio. I don't understand.
Oh, don't you?
No, I don't.
Okay. You don't think they'll sell?
I think they would sell. I think I don't understand why they would be expensive, as Jonathan says. Um, I mean, you get multi-mode HF radios that do, 160 through to 4. The 8 9 whatever it is, the Yaesu one, the latest one they've got, is multi-mode. It's car size. It's great. So why not? Why can't they do the same model but just for the HF bands? It's only 2 bands or 3 bands.
So okay, so is your argument you make an HF mobile?
No,
What is your argument?
there's already an HF mobile. Okay, I can't remember the name. It's a Yaesu 857 or 897 or something.
Okay, that's right. There's the bigger one that does 100 watts, isn't it? Yeah, Jonathan's here.
Yeah. So why can't they just do a reiteration of that Yaesu 897 or 857?
891.
Is it the 891? Thank you.
We think so. We don't know.
As a 2 and 70, which would be multi-mode 2 and 70. I just don't get why they can't.
I don't know. I wouldn't buy one. I wouldn't buy one. And I tell you, okay, so the what you're saying is the FT 891.
Yep.
Oh, that doesn't do 2 and 70. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't do 2 and 70, but it would be nice if either they included 2 and 70 like they did on the 857 in that modern version of it, or they did a 2 and 70 version, which would be multi-mode in that format, in that style. I know what Jonathan was saying; it'd be too inhibitively expensive, but I don't understand why.
Because of R&D.
Well, you've gone a bit loud, by the way, Jonathan.
Sorry. Hi. I've had to change computer entirely. I'm just crap crashed. It'd be R&D problems. That would be the problem. It would be the cost to R&D would
get it all approved and
everything like that would then prohibit it being sold for money that people actually pay for it.
What Mike and I were saying is, what's to stop, Jonathan, one of the good Shack in the Boxes of just having a remote head on the back you could plug into the Shack in the Box, bolt the Shack in the Box to the trunk, the boot, and have a little remote head? Wouldn't it be great if somebody could? The trouble is we don't have the interface, do we, on the back? Well, unless it's a USB interface, maybe, or an RS-232 interface. I don't know. I just feel. I mean, so Mike, Callum, and Mike and Tom were all struggling to find a Shack in the Box with a remote head. There we are. That's the point. And we cannot be the only ones. Mike drove to freaking Bolton to pick up his RC 2000 remote head for his TS 2000. So we're using 20-year-old technology to solve a problem.
You could put a 9700 in your car.
No.
A bit impractical, but you could do it.
No. So if you're going to go down that route,
but that's got a remote head, has it?
No, but if you want 100 watts in the car, that's kind of a solution.
Yeah, but we want a little thing on the dashboard, with a little mini VFO on it and stuff.
Okay, what about this as a solution?
Go on.
I mean, it's still using. Okay, what about 7100? As that's the only radio that's kind of in that form factor that's got a mobile head or
with a reconfigured head.
With what I was going to say with an outboard amplifier to get it up to 100 watts if that's what you really want.
But the 70, which model, Jonathan?
The 7100, the one with the wedge.
That is that's 100 watt though, isn't it?
That's 100 watt.
It's 50 watts on 2 and 70.
Oh, well, I mean, that's okay. We don't mind that. We can live with 50 watts on 2 and 70. We don't even normally get into the bloody repeater.
Yeah, we just have to drive closer to somebody. Yeah, I can get that. I think if it had a different head unit, right, which this is what another way around it is if is it Icom, isn't it? If Icom was to redesign the head unit to be more vehicle friendly, a flat head, if rather than the sculpted wedge, I'd be in for that radio. I'd quite like to purchase it.
I want Yaesu to just to bring out a 857 plus with a bit of
A
a
new
fancier screen.
Okay.
You know, a USB port on it for sound card. Honestly, if they did that, I would buy one tomorrow.
Yes, me too.
857.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
So
both
that's
got
that
those.
cute one that does 100 watts. Is that right?
Yep.
100 watts HF to 6, and then 50 watts on 2 and 20 watts on 77s.
Okay. Now, does that head front come off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's your problem. There's your problem solved, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it's not
made
available.
anymore. It's not made new anymore.
Sake.
You
It's a bit like buying it. It's a bit like buying a 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case people don't know what that is, I will present, screen share, if I can remember how to do all this.
Of course, the advantage of a 2000 is that, and using that mobile in the configuration that you two have done previously and want to do again, is that the 2000 has a built-in ATU. So if your HF whip isn't quite on frequency, you can do it, and you don't have that.
Okay. Yeah, because you get like from 7150 to 7170, don't you?
Yeah, it's such a narrow bandwidth.
Yeah.
Which is why the ATAS is a interesting antenna.
Of course.
I love that ATAS. I've now purchased one like a numpty. And
Do you know what's worse, Mike? Is you could have had mine on long-term loan.
I know. Yeah. You offered me that just as I put the order in. I went,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Do you know what the really sad thing is?
Go on.
My 857 has got a broken auto tuner, so it doesn't work the ATAS.
Hang on. Are you sure is not putting voltage down the coax?
Oh no, it's putting voltage in. It will go right past it because the sensor's broke. So
so it's not measuring SWR because that's
yeah,
all that
that's right.
happens.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh well, that's quite annoying, isn't it?
Okay, so that looks it's quite a nice little set, and it's not too huge. I think the what's the other one? The heel, the
Tar
the
Heel.
Tar Heel.
That's
quite enormous, isn't it? It's that's quite interesting because that does 2 and 70 as well, doesn't it?
Yes.
The ATAS
And
does,
let's face it, all these things are pretty blooming inefficient anyway. Considering.
Yeah, I mean, I have used my ATAS on 2 and 70, but it's not a brilliant antenna on 2 and 70. I mean,
isn't it right? Oh, it's still using all the coil and stuff.
It's still so you tune out all the coil, but it's not brilliant.
It's still better than no antenna.
It's better than a dummy load, but you are far better off given the fact the 857 and in order to use the ATAS on 2 and 70, you have to buy an external duplexer because of the 2 antenna sockets on the back of the.
Oh, well, you might as well just run
2
run
2
and 70.
run 2 waves. Okay, it's far better.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're saying is then, to clarify this, when it comes to a mobile multi-mode HF2 and 70, apart from that Icom thing with the wedge, there's nothing else that you can buy new.
At the moment,
Currently.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's sad, really, isn't it?
It is, and I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't see an announcement from Yaesu this weekend about something for that, because there is a massive gap in the market.
Oh, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a huge gap in the market for people that want. I mean, the 857 sold for so many years because it was so popular. Now, I know the 857 was very versatile. People were using it in the shack, people were using it out portable, and people were using it in the car.
Did that have inbuilt sound card and USB?
No, it didn't. See, that's the point. But if Yaesu were to bring out a replacement,
a new one,
did,
I know.
They binned too, didn't they? Because they binned the 818 and they binned the 857. So both the QRP little battery one, which was a shack in the box, has been thrown out.
Yeah,
and also the 100-watt one's been thrown out. So the only one they got left in their arsenal is the 991A, and for how much longer? We're looking at all of the new refreshes of all of their kit.
991. I think 991A will stick around for some time because it does sell in reasonable good numbers. Because if you're new to the hobby and you want a radio that does everything, then the 991A is hard to pass by, because you get all of HF and 6 with an inbuilt ATU, and then you've also got 50 watts on 270 as well to play with, and you've got Fusion as well. It is a good radio, and it's an okay performer on. I think that's the thing, is that previously people steered away from Shack in the Boxes because they always felt their HF performance wasn't as good as something that was dedicated for HF. However, the 991A it's no slouch on HF. It's not as good as the DX10 or I don't know. I've not used a 710 in anger, but I can imagine it's going to be better because it's sort of more SDR based. But it's not bad. And I saw you put up a comment there, Callum, about the 991 ATU being terrible. It's only as terrible as every other internal ATU on the market.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Put a random wire on it. It's not going to. You've got to be. You put a 40-meter whip on it, and you get a tune on a 40-meter band. That's the point.
And that's the thing, is that an inbuilt ATU, regardless of manufacturer now, is designed to bring in a dipole that's slightly off frequency.
That's right.
That's what it's there for.
Like 80 meters or something.
Yeah.
Anything around 2.5. Isn't it?
2.5 to 3 dB, 2.5 to 3 to 1. Sorry, is going to be about the limit.
Don, what was that radio that Matt reviewed? We know Matt; he's an old friend here. So I just can't remember him reviewing a radio. I can't remember what it was actually.
I don't know.
What, recently?
The other down the road. Yeah, he's still done quite a lot.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
It was
okay, so I'm going to get a drink of milk, and if you don't mind, we're going to just talk. Right. What I want to talk about is that rumour that went round for years and has been round the block, by the way, about 3 times in the last 40 years, that Kenwood are leaving the amateur radio market, right?
Oh, boy.
And I'll tell you the reason why people think that. And I've actually watched the USA stream where Josh and Jason, the whole crew, are going, oh, yeah, Kenwood, they don't, they're not coming out with new radios. They've lost the plot. But I was talking about this to Mike, is that if you weigh a 7300, right, and then weigh a 590, you get a substantial difference in the weight. And why is that? Is if you open the two up, you'll find, well, Mike will tell you actually about the power transistors and stuff. The Kenwood is generally a lot underrated. So you've got basically a 200 watt radio and they turn it down to 100.
Yep.
Jonathan may have, I know you're a bit of an Icom man. I'm not a Kenwood freak, by the way. I'm just saying Kenwood aren't getting out of the market. They just, and I'll let you guys discuss this, they just make a radio that works. And like the TS2000. How long was that on the bloody market, the 2000?
20 years.
20 years. They don't need to make another one. It's not like Yaesu coming out with a different one every bloody year. Right, they just make a good one. Right, I'm going to get my milk.
Enjoy. Is it red top?
It's only here. I don't know.
It's red top.
That's what it normally has. It's like white water.
I was going to say it's just water that someone's dipped a finger in or something. Make it dirty, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. On the Kenwood front, I think there's a balance. I think that Yaesu released too many radios, and I think that Kenwood don't release enough.
That's one way of looking at it.
I think that's the reason, is that people are so used to the frequency with which Yaesu turns something around that they look at sort of the fact that Kenwood haven't released a radio for 5-6 years, and actually think, well, hang on, what are Kenwood up to? I think I was quite happy to see that Kenwood have launched the new handheld, and I think it's a sign. I hope it's a sign of things to come. That they might do something else along those lines. If they took the essence of a D74 or D75 as it is now and put it into a mobile with a larger PA, I think that would sell quite nicely. But I think Yaesu produced too many radios. But it also, I think, stems from where the main markets for those manufacturers is. For Kenwood, amateur radio is not their primary market.
No, they're very much commercial, aren't they?
They are very much commercial. I mean, Kenwood is a huge
which manufacturer? I wasn't listening.
Kenwood.
For Kenwood, amateur radio is not their main market.
Right.
Their main
washing
market
machines?
is yeah,
Fruit mixers.
Hi-fi stereos, microwaves.
different company. But yeah, hi-fis, that is Kenwood. That is Japanese Kenwood. Your food mixers, that's a different Kenwood. But yeah, hi-fis, the sort of the commercial PMR type stuff, that is where Kenwood is.
What about washing
Okay.
machines?
All right.
I don't know about washing machines. What
Let's
comes in
move
that
on
machine?
from washing machines,
Yeah,
Mike.
never
We're onto
mind.
radio. Thank you.
Never mind. So amateur radio is a tiny, tiny part of their business. And in fact, if it was left up to the accountants, it would be a part of the business that would be sold off.
Right.
And the same thing goes for Icom. For Icom, amateur radio is a slightly bigger part of their company, but it's still not their main thing. They're Icom's main
Another commercial radio
again,
company.
it's,
Marine, all sorts.
marine, aviation, and again PMR.
Yeah.
Yaesu, however, amateur radio is probably their largest market that they're in because of the way that Yaesu was divvied up under Motorola's ownership.
Ah.
Amateur radio is a huge part of Yaesu's business. And okay, they have a bit of marine and they have a bit of aviation coming back in, but amateur radio is kind of their bread and butter. So that's why Yaesu could keep churning out amateur radios because it's what they do. And if a year goes by without Yaesu releasing a new radio, well, people start wondering what's happened to them.
Okay. Oh, I remember the summer camp deal.
Yeah.
I remember Bandcamp, but that's a completely different subject.
Mm. Okay, so that's interesting. Very interesting. So, I mean, I see. Okay. So, Kenwood, they'll have fewer designers, presumably, but and I know there's a very keen, head designer at Kenwood. They make one good radio, they lock it down, and they make it.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say this for Kenwood, is that they don't have issues. Yaesu, I mean, there was the whole saga has been sort of kicked around the football field a number of times about the original 991 and its ATU and the fact that it was unreliable and also how it popped PAs. And while that wasn't every single unit that did that, because it was far from it, there were a significant portion that didn't. It was a grounding problem on the ATU that Yaesu, fixed pretty quickly. And on those units that did happen to go pop, Yaesu repaired free of charge. Okay. But you wouldn't have seen that problem from Kenwood.
Kenwood, no.
All right. Because, I mean, when it comes to HF, we've got the 890. Are they still making the 590 or not?
Yeah, so 590 and 890 are still in production. 990 is now not being made, but again, there's still a few knocking around the supply chain. So you can still get a 990 new, but they're not actually actively making them anymore.
Is that right?
Yeah.
God. I've got a legacy radio, Mike.
You've got not a current model, Callum.
Well, it's not on their website as being discontinued yet, but yes.
If the software and this USB cable for the two 890s together turn it into a double VFO radio, then that would be fun.
You can do that. You can do that. Yeah, you can already do that. That would be nice.
Can you? On a pair of 890s?
Yeah. One can be the slave to the other.
You can... I've not seen it done with two 890s. I've seen it done with an 890 and a 590.
Yeah, I've seen it done with that, and it looks crap.
Yes, but I am guessing, because the circuitry's there, that you could probably do it with an 890 as well.
Okay.
I'd have to properly I haven't got to test it, so
we'll have to buy one.
I'm only guessing.
I think, people know if I saved up for the next couple of years, I think I should be heavily looking at Flex. And maybe we should get Flex to sponsor the Friday live stream.
I'm surprised you haven't gone Hellblinger.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't do that. I think that's it's a slightly crazy radio. It's too much money, And I don't care what Rob Sherwood's charts say if the next radio came out, because every radio now
I can't hear the
that
difference.
comes out is better than most people's noise floors and everything anyway.
Yeah.
So just
This is
get
this is
better.
the thing is that I think the thing about Rob Sherwood's list is that it's not real world conditions. If you got under real world conditions a 7300, a 7610, a 101, a hillbilly, they'd all perform identically. The only thing that's going to set them apart is their DNR.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't be able to hear it. No pun intended. I with my ears, I mean,
I know.
you know,
The
Let's
only
be honest.
time a radio has ever let me down was the TS2000, and I've got a funny feeling. Good point, Tambit. We'll cover Aircraft in a minute. A funny feeling it was user error. I was right next to a Russian doing 25 kilowatts on 40 meters or something, and it was just he was too far away for me to physically hear the.
that would do it.
But the S meter would just periodically go. Phew. It's like, well, what's going on? Something's gone wrong. It's died. I think I should have dialed in a ton of attenuation, actually.
That would do it.
Yeah. Back
My
off the arc.
991A went down very easily because of close proximity to another amateur.
Okay.
Was it on 2 meters and they were also running a 991A?
They weren't. They were running another. I don't know what I think they had a Yaesu, and it wasn't on 2 meter. It was actually on 40, and it just went, and it just killed the
Died.
Killed the amp.
Yeah.
I had to replace a couple of
Oh, really?
resistors. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, so K3, I had great experience with a pair of K3s about 10 years ago. I loved what it did. I just didn't like using it. I had a problem with the front panel. I just thought, yuck. But I think it's come on now with is there such a thing? The K4 didn't have some problems?
K4. K4 exists. It's in the world. I had a pretty similar experience with the K3. The thing for Aircraft with me,
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said Helicraft. I was wondering if it was. Yeah.
is that they make really good radios, but boy, do they know how to charge for them.
Really?
That's the thing for me, is that they produce beautiful radios that work brilliantly, and by the time, I mean, and you look at the base price, and you think, oh, it's actually not too bad. But by the time you start actually adding the things you want onto it, it becomes more expensive than one of the black boxes from Japan.
Okay. Yeah.
What about the MB1?
What about it, Mike?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot about this this particular radio, which is a flex copy. I understand.
What's it called? An MB1?
I'll probably get in trouble for that.
Yes,
but
it's. I mean, it's not really a flex copy. It's nice. I mean, it feels a bit less well made than what Flex produce. It works very nicely. The thing I think the thing that would put me off buying an MB1 is the fact it's got a computer in it as well. So by the time that Windows gets so bloated that it won't run, your radio's naffed because you can't run the software anymore.
Is that it there on the screen?
Yeah, that's the one.
yeah.
Is that actually running Windows?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically a computer with a radio bolted into it.
On the front, yeah.
Yeah. As I said, it is a inside the radio. You've essentially got a computer and a radio, and they talk to each other on a network switch.
Okay. What's the top of the range Flex? Is it 6400?
6700 technically, but you'd probably want to go for a 6600 because or 6600M, which has the front panel.
Okay.
So, but isn't this basically a computer inside of a box?
Yes.
So what's the difference?
It feels better made.
Okay. Yeah, but it's not running Windows, is it? Presumably it's just running firmware.
I'm not sure. I think it might be running Windows underneath it. I think the difference is that Flex have more of a name than SunSDR do.
Okay.
And I think that Flex would be supporting their radio far longer than a SunSDR. It's a bit like Apple versus generic Windows computer manufacturer. Apple tend to, support their older computers longer than, someone like HP would do with a Windows box.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
And roughly how much is a 6600 M?
Without looking, I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
Guesstimate.
Yeah,
$6,000.
I don't think they're that much. Hang on. I'm going to look up the exact price.
Yeah, okay.
600 M. They are currently retailing at 5.5.
I was close.
Okay, so actually less expensive than a 990.
Yes, but only 100 watts.
I don't really care about the power. Could be 50 watts, all I care. But interesting.
Yeah, when you push it for an Icom 2000, mate, it doesn't make much difference, does it?
I just noticed that Icom do the 2020, which is a solid state Icom 2000. That looks quite nice.
See, I would like to see you, Callum, do a challenge for a week. Just use a 705 and see.
With the Icom
okay.
2000?
With the Icom 2000, yeah. But I think that would be an interesting experiment.
705, the 10 watt. Yeah, well, it would be. I mean, I'd still do it. And I've just got this audio issue. Can I still hit the monitor button and get it out the USB line?
Yep. Yes, you can.
All right. Who wants to lend me a 705?
I'd lend you it for a live stream if I was in the room.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Well, come up. Take a day off.
I'll join you.
I mean, I'm quite happy. I mean, I'd run any radio. I mean, I'd just make it work, to be honest. Nobody would know any blooming difference. Just got to change my logging software, that's all, so it recognises it. Yeah. Nathan says he's going to post mine. Here's to me.
That's nice of him.
Yeah, very kind. I wouldn't be that trusting.
James is going to join me for a live stream with his. That's fine. We've just got the audio and the cat to sort out. That's all.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to bail out. I've got to be.
Yeah, well, I think we've had an hour and a half.
In Chichester in the morning, so.
Oh, of course you are. He's got 3 days hard graft ahead of him. So, all right. All the best, Mike. And we will edit. I'll download this and edit it and trim it into about 20 minutes just for Icom, Kenwood, and Yaesu to watch. All right, well, let's say cheerio. Jonathan, you've gone mute, by the way.
I think I just had a message. Don't you hear me now?
Yeah.
I had a message that said that my mic had been lost, but it's been refound.
Oh, okay, that's fine then. All right. So I'll say cheerio, and then Jonathan and I are going to stay and probably have a quick chat for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I need to disappear quickly, but I'll stay for a few minutes more.
Just to say cheerio.
Yeah.
All the best from Callum.
Live long and prosper.
73.
From Callum.
From Callum and from Mike. Okay. All the best. Good night, everybody. Oh, bye-bye now.